What up, though? Good morning, and welcome to another episode of AM Opinionated. I am your host, who goes by a plethora of names, monikers. One appellation this morning, I'm gonna go by Momar Muata Mbonisi, M3, if you like abbreviations. And I'm gonna break down what that means. I know I keep saying that, but I guess I'm just waiting for somebody to ask what it means before I actually take additional time to break down what M3 Momar Muata Mbonisi actually means. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break it down a little later, not this morning, Just let you know I'm going by Momar. If this is your first time tuning in to an episode of AM Opinionated, welcome. If you have rocked with me before and you've been rocking since the beginning, man, number one, thank you, salute, and welcome back. So today on AM Opinionated, I'm gonna be talking about so this is gonna be another civics, this is gonna be another civics episode, and you'll see why I'm on what I'm on now when we get to the prime time episode of Notoriously Opinionated, where my guests are I got some good guests tonight. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna post who my guests are this afternoon, because I'm waiting for one final confirmation before I put the name, like solidify that they're gonna be on the show. But this afternoon I'm gonna post. By this afternoon I'll know for sure all of my confirmations of my guests tonight. But so that's why I'm doing another civics episode. Like I said, you'll see why I'm doing civics, why I'm talking about that again. Because it's important. Yeah, I'm liable to talk about civics at any time just because I'm interested in it. It fascinates me. The hypocrisy of it kind of fascinates me at times. But anyway, so that's I'm gonna be on physics again, just different aspects of it briefly. But my first opinion, again, I'm kind of off Nate Robinson. You dig? Still a little frustrated that he tricked me. You know what I mean? Still a little frustrated behind that, but I'm not gonna trip about Nate Robinson. I'm really not. But going along with my theme of civics or government or whatever it is that you want to call it, I really want to talk about and kind of give a brief education about, not even really education, maybe if you learn something, great. But just to get you to start thinking about the differences between certain words, So there's a difference between rights and freedom. There's a difference between rights and freedom. And there's different kind of rights. Like, all rights are not, quote unquote, so-called inalienable or unalienable, as the actual document says. The actual document does not say inalienable rights. I don't know where people be getting that from. The actual document says unalienable. And although they're interchangeable, unalienable and inalienable, I don't really necessarily know if there's a legal difference between unalienable and inalienable. So, they interchange, but there is a difference between freedom and rights, and there is a difference between natural rights and legal rights, right? So the main differences between, like, you have a natural right to live, right? That your right to live was not given to you by any man, and cannot without I was going to say cannot without your consent, but actually your life can be taken by someone else without your consent, unfortunately. However, you also have the natural right to defend yourself. That is a natural right. So the right to life, the right to defend your life and the lives of those in your immediate space. You have the right to think for yourself, you know. So in the Nguzo Saba, it says the second principle, which we'll be getting into when we get a little closer to Kwanzaa. When we get a little closer to Kwanzaa, you'll hear the second affirmation of Kwanzaa is Kujichagulia, right? Which means self-determination, to define yourself, name yourself, and speak for yourself instead of being defined, named, created for, and spoken for by anybody else. You know, you have to be able to define yourself. That is Kujichagulia. When you are able to define yourself and you get that freedom of definition of yourself and your movements and your thoughts and your action, that's autonomy. You know, you are self-governed. Autonomy. You know, break down the word. You know, break down the word autonomy and you'll get it. Break down any word with N-O-M-Y at the end of it, and you'll understand that. And then break down self. Self just means or break down auto. Auto just means self. You know, autobiography. You know, you're telling a story about you. You know, so that's auto. Auto is self. And then you got the N-O-M-Y, that is just the more specific telling of a particular field of knowledge, right? So N-O-M-Y, so you got autonomy, which is a specific field of yourself. And then you have some like what astronomy, right? So, but there is definitely so we got natural rights. We have legal rights. So what are your legal rights? Legal rights are the right to vote, right? So you have a legal right to vote. You have a legal right to what else? You got the right to bear arms. You have a legal right to bear arms, right? However, these legal rights can be infringed upon, right? That is the main difference between rights and freedom. Freedom cannot be infringed upon. Freedom is defined by you. You know what I'm saying? It comes between that. It comes between that space that lies between the stimulus and the reaction. You know, in the middle of stimulus reaction, there's space, right? And within that space, that is wherein you can find your freedom, right? So learn about your rights, you know, and remember what I said in the previous episode about the flesh index. You know, look up the flesh index and check out what it means. It is your comprehension level of certain things. You know what I'm saying? And there are certain rights, there are certain laws that are written at a level of reading comprehension that most people will not achieve, which is why when you lay your eyes on the IRS tax code, why it looks like you're reading a whole nother freaking language. That's why it looks like that, because it takes a certain level of comprehension to actually read it. It's like, man, I'm not stupid. Why I can't read this? It's not that you can't read it. It's not that you can't read the words that's on the page. It's your comprehension of what it's actually saying. Even when you read legal books, you'll read legal books. I know for years, I would pick up a legal book and be like, nope, close it and chunk it. Why? Because I'm reading it and it's like, I felt stupid. I knew I wasn't stupid. I know that I'm highly intelligent, always have been. But when it comes to this specific area, I was lost. I would open up these Supreme Court whatevers, you know, and I'm reading them and I'm like, this don't make no sense. And even the words that I thought I knew didn't mean what I thought they meant. In like, I'm reading them in English, and English, reading them in English and reading the words in legalese, completely different. You know, there are words that mean one thing in, you know, your basic vernacular, and then there's legal terminology, and it's different. So learn the difference between legal rights and natural rights, and understand that there's a difference between rights and freedoms. All right. So now that we've gotten on to that, let's move on. Today in human past, there was the distribution of the first coin that was designed by and honoring a black person. The 50-cent piece of Booker T. Washington on December 16th, what was it? 1846, right? December 16th, 1946 was the distribution of the first Booker T. Washington 50-cent piece. That's important. You know what I'm saying? That was the first coin, the actual first coin that had a black person on it. And you talking about a little over 50 years after like hardcore slavery. You know, Booker T. Washington was a part of that kind of last generation of the descendants, the immediate descendants of slaves, you know. So for him to end up on a 50-cent piece of a country that enslaved his mother and grandmother, you know, that's big, you know. And then this man went on to advise presidents, you know what I'm saying? That's huge. It was also, today was also the day in, I believe, 1875 when Knoxville College was established. Now you got schools like Knoxville College and Alabama A&M, right? These are important schools because these were two of the first schools who were established as a university, you know, and their main goal was to educate free blacks and freed slaves, you know. So it's like these were the first institutions that's talking about, hey, we need to now that we have the legal right to be educated, you know, and have these rights backed and supported by our government, you know, let's take advantage of it. We got to get some teachers in here and start teaching our people, you know, let's get educated, you know, higher institutes of learning, right? So Alabama A&M and Knoxville College were very early institutions of higher learning for our people, and their establishment was today back in the late 19th century. Okay, so the civics. All right, so tonight some of the topics are going to be civic engagement. You know, we're going to be talking about like the responsibility of the community to be a part of your community. But if you don't understand, I know some of y'all think I'm about to say, if you don't understand racism and white supremacy, those of you who have tuned in before think I'm about to say something about racism, and I am. If you have not, I'm playing. But for real though, if you don't understand racism and white supremacy, what it is and how it functions, everything else you think you understand will only confuse you. Even your understanding of what your responsibility to your society is. You may think that your responsibility, and you know what? Let me correct myself before I even say it. You know what I'm saying? On some Minority Report type shit, I felt like I was about to commit a verbal crime And so let me convict myself before I say it. So here's what it is. You think for yourself. That's a freedom. The freedom to think for yourself, right? And a lot of people will want to say that freedom of speech is a freedom because it has freedom in front of it. But say something about the president and see what happened to you. Say something in public about doing something detrimental to the president and see if you still got freedom of speech. They're going to shut your ass up and down. Trust that. Listen to what I said. Shut you up and shut you down. Real talk. So technically you got the freedom of speech because like physically you can make your mouth say whatever it is that you want to say, but legally those rights will be infringed upon at a moment's notice as soon as you say something about a government official, right? So you may have the idea that really your only responsibility, like on some Lil Wayne shit, you know what I'm saying, that his responsibility is only to himself and his immediate family, and that's it. And he don't give a damn about nobody else. Cool. You know what I'm saying? You may be a good rapper, but as a black man, you don't got a clue. And that is sad. How are you from New Orleans and grew up around all that, and I don't get it. As intelligent as that little brother is, he's lost. Anyway, but to not engage in your community. What's community engagement? How many of y'all voted in the mayoral election? How many of y'all voted in the gubernatorial election? How many of y'all voted for city council? How many of y'all voted for your state representatives? How many voted? That is civic responsibility. That's part of civic responsibility. You know what I'm saying? So I can't announce this. I will have my one of my best friends and business partner, Johnny Waller, who is the CEO of Scope KC. So check Scope KC out. Johnny is the founder and CEO of Scope KC. I am the COO of Scope KC. And so we got a lot of big things going on. This is part of our civic responsibility. This is part of our civic duty that we're doing for the city of Kansas City and the state of Missouri, right? So we're trying to get it in and do what it is that we can do, you know. So those who have been disenfranchised, we rocking on helping you, you know. Mass incarceration, we rocking, we're helping you. You know, these are things that we're doing that is part of our civic responsibility, right? But if you don't engage in your community, stop complaining about your community. Stop complaining about black on black crime. You know, if you are one of the main contributors of this black on black crime, and I'm not even talking about being out there and being a gunner, I'm talking about mentally. If you are still mentally enslaved, then you are part of the problem. You are not part of the solution. If your first thing to talk about is how we can't talk about how police are brutalizing black people because black people are brutalizing black people. Well, neither of them are good. Stop making, you know, a big deal of one and not a big deal of the other. Both of them are big deals. Black people killing other black people is a big deal, but it's not uncommon. You know what I'm saying? White people kill more white people than any other race. Mexicans kill other Mexicans than any other race. Asians kill more Asians than any other race. Black people kill more black people than any other race. You know what I'm saying? Like people unfortunately kill their own. They're the closest to them, you know. So the phrase "you hurt who is the closest to you" hits home when it comes to that, you know. So But if you are not part of the solution, then guess what you're a part of? And if you are not doing your civic duty to get out there and help your community in any way, I'm not saying you have to be an activist. I'm not saying you have to start a non-for-profit. I'm not saying you have to go into prisons. I'm not saying you have to go to crime scenes after there's been a murder committed. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm saying start to practice conflict resolution in your own life. You know, be a part of the de-escalation of a thing and not the escalation of a thing. And if you just start in your household, it'll have tentacles that will reach out to the streets. You know, if you just start with the thought process in your own household as to, I am going to start to practice certain positive conflict resolution tactics in my own mind, in my own household, those things will translate. You know, each one will begin to teach one, you know, and then we will get to a place of civic responsibility, because you're being responsible in your own mind and in your own house, you know, but you can't tell somebody else to do something that you ain't doing, you know. So with that, I'm gonna say Uhuru Sihuru. What does Uhuru Sihuru mean? Uhuru Sihuru is Swahili for freedom is not free. You know, there is a price and a cost for freedom. Ask Nat Turner, you know, ask the Maroons, ask some of these people who fought for their freedom. They didn't fight for rights. They fought for their freedom, right? They killed, and some of them died for their ancestors, for their for their progeny to have freedom, you know. So they wanted to have their children and their children's children not have to go through what they went through. They wanted their children and their children's children to be free. And if this meant them risking their lives for this freedom, so be it. And they were cool with it, right? But freedom is not free. There's a cost to it, you know. And again, you have to understand that there's a difference between freedom and rights. Rights can be infringed upon. The only person, the only entity that can infringe upon your freedom is you. That's it, right? So just understand that freedom can, again, kuchagulia, you know, self-determination. Freedom is defined by you. You know, it's not bestowed upon you by any government. Government cannot bestow freedom upon you, right? Government can bestow upon you the freedom to enforce your right. That's what you have. Government can bestow upon you the freedom to enforce your right. That's it. But true freedom can only be defined and bestowed upon you by you and the Creator. So with that, I'm going to thank you for tuning in to another episode of AM Opinionated. Please tune in tonight. You will not regret it. Tune in tonight to Notoriously Opinionated, the Primetime Podcast on Wednesdays at 8:30. I have been your man, your host, Momar Moata Mbonisi, aka a whole bunch of other things that I don't have time to get into right now. But please patronize and support small and Black businesses. They need the support so that we can keep the Black dollar in the Black community for more than 6 hours. Right now, that's about how long the Black dollar is staying in the Black community. It's staying in the Black community about 6 hours, right? Remember, It's not about seizing the day. Seize the moment. You might not make it through the whole day, you know, and those that care may not make it through the whole day. So seize the moment. Seize the moment to tell people that you love them. You know, seize the moment to tell the people that you miss them. Don't wait till the end of the day thinking that you got time. You might not, you know, like, you know, so life happens and shit happens, you know, and so seize the moment. And I'm leaving you with, so it was a quote that said that the definition of being free or being in a free society is a society where you are free to do things that are unpopular. You know what I'm saying? That everybody is free to do things that are unpopular. I don't think we got that kind of society because we're not free to do that. But you can have the freedom to do that within your own life and within your own mind. Kuji Chagulia, self-determination. Define yourself, name yourself, create for yourself, and speak for yourself. And don't be defined, named, created for, or spoken for by anybody else. All right. Peace. Tune in to Notoriously Opinionated tonight, 8:30. Tonight, 8:30. Tonight, 8:30. Notoriously Opinionated. Check it out. Peace. I'm out.